All right, we're live here at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil.
I'm Treacherous Trista.
And we're joined by Paul Hyett, former FX artist and current filmmaker. It's very cool to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
Yeah. So we're doing 6 weeks of the Werewolf series, and Trista had Howl on her list, and I feel bad for saying that I wasn't aware of the movie, but I loved it. I was very glad she brought it up on the show.
Awesome, thank you.
So, when you first made Howl, how long was making a werewolf movie something you always wanted to do?
I always wanted to do a creature feature at one point. My first film, Season House, I really didn't want to do a creature movie because I had a whole background in effects makeup, and I'd made so many creatures and done The Descent. So I kind of felt, as my directorial debut, everyone's going to be thinking, I'm going to do creatures and tons of makeup effects. And I thought, something, I've got to show that I can do something else away from that, because people know that I can do effects. People know that I can do creatures. And the main thing about a film is characters, story, the sort of. So I kind of thought, something I wanted to do something really cool and dark and drama based. And I did Season House to show that I could, deal with actors and tell a story without having to rely on, creatures coming out, shadows ripping heads off. So that was great. And then when the producers, they had watched Season House at Fright Fest, and they called me up and said, look, a director's dropped out of Howl, and do you want to come along and chat to us? So, I went in with a bit of a different kind of. I kind of wanted to go a more. It was the original script was quite more comedy based, and I thought, something, if we could do this a bit darker, a bit cooler, a bit more grounded in reality, and they were like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. So. I was like, cool. So my next one's a creature feature. And I mean, I think I never, because I didn't write Howl, it was never sort of my intention to think, oh, one day I'm going to write a werewolf movie. So when it came to me, it was much more a case of, oh, that's a fun idea. What can I do with, a werewolf movie? Obviously, I had to keep it a 15 certificate. I wanted to do a lot more gore and really intense deaths. And they were like, no, we need to go for 15. And then for some reason, it got given an 18 certificate, age rating, in Britain. And we were like, I reined it all in, and I could have had so much more gore. But, we went for a much more fun sort of werewolf movie rather than a dark, scary one.
Mm-hmm. How about because your werewolf is there's two different kinds of movies. There's a big giant one that you first see that breaks in, and then the other ones are more slender and creepy, but they're all very monster-like. I think they're more monster-like than wolf-like.
Yeah, something, I kind of felt everything's been done with heavy werewolves. In my past career doing creatures, I'd done big, heavy werewolves, and you watch The Howling, and I love those werewolves, and American Werewolf in London. You can't really, in terms of fluffy werewolves, they're amazing, and I kind of quite like the underworld werewolves. And then I was kind of thinking, what could we do? And I kept thinking about Jason Voorhees, and if he got transformed into a werewolf, what would it look like? So I kept, we talked a lot. Oh, hello, someone else has popped up.
Yep. Hi. Terrible Troy is here with us now.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. That's a horror setting in your background.
That's just his basement.
Yeah. But yeah, and I was so we went around quite a lot trying to work it out, and also doing a massive. When you do a massive werewolf with the sort of legs and the shape of a wolf, it didn't really lend well to being in a train carriage, because you've got something that's on all fours and really long, and so it was thought of logistics. How can we do it on the train? And also, do we really want to do something really? And also, I got this thing about fur. Fur, after 3 or 4 days, it's all looking skanky, and it takes so much maintenance, and you're forever trying to, I just thought sometimes with fur, you lose all the cool detail. And I knew we were going to be shooting a lot in the dark, and I always had this worry that sometimes it could look like a big Buffon toilet brush, so that was always like my sort of, okay, let's just give it a little bit of hair so it's technically a werewolf. And we sort of came up with the idea that they would bite someone and you transform, and that's it. There's no sort of full moon or silver bullets. You get bit, you turn into one. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So we messed around with the mythology a bit.
Yeah. Now, did you do the effects on Howl?
No. I was kind of quite busy directing it.
Yeah.
But I think at that time I didn't have a studio anyway. If I'd had a studio, I probably would have got my guys to do it. But I think I'd given it. Yeah, I did have a workshop then. So I went with my friends, Christian Maddock. He's one of the guys that used to work with me, and yeah, he done a great job. But we prepped that film in about 6 weeks. I mean, that was building a train, building all the creatures, building everything in a crazy amount of time. I can't believe we did it. I think about that now, and I think, my God, how did we do that? But it's so we were kind of quite happy about that.
The train itself, is that hard to shoot in, like a narrow setting? Which you also do a lot in the seasoning house. A lot of
I mean, kind of funny with the train, because when we were prepping it, we were thinking, do we shoot on the real train? Do we find locations? And we went to British Rail, or GWR, I think it was one of the English. I don't think British Rail was around. It was a big. I think it's GWR, and they said, "Yeah, we've got some rolling stock of trains, so come and have a look at the train. Come and have a chat with us." And we got there. We were like, "Oh wow, this train is great. We can." And there were so many rules. There was like, can't get under the train. If you get under, all the power here's got to be turned. There were so many rules, and I was like, there's, I said to the guy, there's a scene where the young bloke goes under the train. And he goes, no, we've got a thing that we don't let anyone under the train. I said, what about if all the power's off? He goes, no, the problem is we hit 2 people a week on average, and we can only clean off a certain amount of them. And I was like, whoa, you mean so there's, because there's, you go down there, you'll always find like a finger or something. And it really freaked me out.
Yeah.
There's like real dead business going on under there. So,
Were they all matter of fact about it? Like, oh yeah, you find some.
Yeah, he was totally like, he was like, we wash it down. The police come and take the big bits, and then we have to try to get the little bits out. Which, I was like, oh my God, that's so insane. And then we got onto the train, and all the time it's so packed. And there was another train movie that had been made in England like 6 months before that, and the producers chatted to them, and we watched it, and you could tell all their angles with the camera was sort of like on rails, and above where you put the luggage, and they couldn't, I like to be free with the camera and do cool stuff. So we designed it that you could pull out parts of the wall, and it was nice to be able to say, right, these are all my shots. I need to have that wall pulled out and that wall pulled out. This could do this, and we could literally cut holes in it and do all this cool stuff without any worry of fingers being found or
I think that's always a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of nice as well because essentially 90% of the movie is done, it's all green screen. And, we had this little warehouse, all green screen, and only the bits, only the last couple of scenes where they escape and they're outside in the forest, that was the only bit actually on location. And everything else was done on the train. And, it was kind of funny because you come in and it was kind of funny because we had all this the shrubbery that we brought in after about a week or so, it all started to die. So we look at all these plants. Some of them are rubber, and they stayed green, and all the real ones were going brown and starting to smell. And it was kind of and the water. We had so many rain effects, and we had wooden doors on pulleys, and the wood started to swell. So because of the rain, and the doors would go like, it was just, it was a real experience building and doing a train set. It really was.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Trista, do you have a question?
Do you have a personal favorite horror film?
If I had to say, the one that means most to me would be The Thing, John Carpenter's. It was the film that kind of, I was watching all the Freddy films. I was a huge horror junkie. I loved Freddy, Jason, everything. And then suddenly The Thing I watched, I was like, oh my God, this is so different to everything. It's got a story, it's got character development, it's got nihilistic tone to it, the music, every part of it was perfect. You can't get any better than that. Every single thing about it. There's not one flaw to that movie. I've watched it, I don't know, over my time. I had it on Laserdisc, I had it on, I've owned that movie and watched it. And whenever you accidentally come across it, I've always got to watch it. It is just such a good film.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've mentioned sort of that on the show before. I think it has the best of everything. You can watch it, just the effects of the monsters are so awesome, but the cast is great and the story, everything about it, like just what you said, there's really no flaw. And I do recommend the board game, by the way.
Oh yeah. I had the soundtrack on the vinyl, but it's when you hear that first thumping on the soundtrack, you just know you're just going to get on that sofa and slide in and buckle up. It's just, you just never get bored of it. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the monster, whatever you want to call it, like, it's really alien because it's not, a guy in a suit. It's just bizarre stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's as a young kid watching that was one of the things that really pushed me into wanting to do effects. It was like, I was just so, like other people sort of talk about, oh, it was The Exorcist and Dick Smith's wonderful old age makeup. Me, it was like creatures. Oh my God. It was like, the
just
dog
blew your mind.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, it just blew my mind. And that's when I really want to see if I could try to get into the effects.
So when you started to get into effects, how did you go about that? Because were there schools around at that time? Was it like before, like there was really like effects schools?
No. Something, it's really weird because, as I was getting out of effects, I was seeing how people now get into effects. That's the thing, there's YouTube tutorials, there's all this stuff. In my day, because, I didn't know whether I wanted to make movies or do effects. I knew at that time, it's not like now where anyone can make a movie on a phone. You can get an iPhone X and make a decent looking movie. In my day when I was young, you couldn't do that. It was like you could borrow someone's 8mm camera and it's terrible, and be all overexposed or grainy, or you'd step on it, or now people can download stuff for free and edit for free and make all this stuff for free. If that had been there when I was young, I probably would have gone into more directing. But you had to be rich and go to film school and national film school and all this sort of stuff. So I thought, what can I do? So I thought, maybe I'll push the effects. and I got in touch with a bunch of people, and I got some tips. But then I went to makeup school, and they had a prosthetics course and that's where I joined with their agency, and then I sort of went and done loads of short films. I mean, I think for about 3 or 4 years, I worked for pretty much nothing. I had a very understanding father who said to me, "Come live with me, and you don't have to worry about rent bills, anything like that. And, just get as much practical experience as you can." So I was working, on whatever I could, the most low budget rubbish stuff, but it was all about practicing my craft, and I mean, I was very lucky to have a father that just said, "Look, I'll pay for your food. Here's you can stay with me, blah, blah." And I never had to worry. All I had to worry about was just trying to get good at my craft. So I was really lucky in having an understanding father. And then eventually those people would go from doing their low budget stuff to the bigger stuff and call me. And it's something that I thought I was just going to be a guy with a makeup box, or working for a studio and coming on. I didn't realize that at some point I was going to get my own studio and workshop and hire all the guys, and that's where it sort of started to get less fun, because I've got 10 guys to look after. I have to do so much admin. I've got 4 films on at once. That means all I'm doing is budgets. All I'm doing is scheduling. I'm just making sure this person's here, that person's there. I could be in the supermarket, and it was, I'd always have a love for it. And I still watch stuff and go, "Oh, wow, that was a cool makeup," or that was, but the last few years of it were kind of like, I knew my next career was calling me. And also, to be honest with you, as a director, you get there 1 hour before filming and you shoot, and then you pretty much get in a car and take you back. As a prosthetics guy, you get there like 4-5 hours earlier than anyone else. Do all your makeup, you've got to stand around for 12 hours, mostly bored, and then you do your effect. And then you've got to, when everyone's gone home, you've got to take and de-rig everyone. And so as a director, it's not easier, that's not the right word, but physically, stamina wise, it's much easier. It's like the day is like 2/3 of the day, and you're always busy, and you're never bored. It's so it was nice to be able to make that jump.
So, you mentioned your father, he wants you to pursue this. So you're getting all this experience, you're doing effects for any movie, low budget, whatever. So when you're doing that, does that prepare you to become a director, being on the movie sets? You kind of,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's that watching movies my whole life, and then having that physical sort of time on set. And it was working with the good directors and bad directors. You're sort of watching them block out scenes, you're watching and you're thinking, why are they shooting from that angle? They're not covering that right, they're doing, and it was great. And also, I worked with someone like Neil Marshall, who always, he's really lovely to work with. He knows his stuff. You watch and you learn, and then you could go work with someone. I'm not going to say their name, but you work with a bad director. You're just like, oh my god, where have they got this guy from? It's and you learn, and it's kind of funny. Over the years, you start to really watch how they block out the scene, how they talk to the actors, how they pull off all the technical or logistical things. But it got to a point that when I was about to direct my first movie, I actually said to my producer, who's a guy who did Season House, I said, look, I'm thinking about directing a short film. He's like, why? Because you've got your knowledge, education, do a feature. Don't be lazy. And I was like, okay. So we worked out a feature. But yeah, essentially, before I'd done my first feature, I was completely versed in fights, stunts, pyrotechnics, makeup, prosthetics, visual effects. I understood all of that, so I could really just put my time into, you know, the sort of actors and the performance, and you know, something like Howl. I think we shot it in 5 weeks and 2 days, which when you've got a cast of 9 people and you've got stunts and you've got creature suits and you've got everything is on green screen, so you're continually worrying about 3D visual effects. You know, little things like, you know, if I put too much smoke, you can't see this. Is it gonna, you know, I need to have a 3D effect there, and that's going to get in the way. And if they got a roto, so you're always constantly thinking. And to do a film like that in 5 weeks, it was only because I had that experience beforehand that I could then take it. It still wasn't long enough, never is. But yeah, it was invaluable, my sort of time on set.
It's real quick because you mentioned the smoke. I love the scenes, you know, near the end when they are outside. It's got a very classic horror look to it, with the moonlight coming through the trees and the kind of the smoke coming up and all that. Really, and the glowing eyes on the werewolves, I think, are great.
I was also trying to think of, I wonder if I could do a little bit of a mix of a disaster movie and a werewolf movie. You know, I would like to have done more with the train and crashing, and you know, I would like to have done more stuff with the train actually moving and the creature ripping it, and but you know, budgets and time, and you know.
We mentioned disaster movie. I like the humans themselves are not just people getting picked off. They're not just there to get killed and stuff. It's interesting to see, you know, who decides to work together, who's out for themselves, you know, and turning on each other, and all that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think if you didn't get those characters interesting, then people are going to lose interest, you know. And you know, we try to do a lot about the sort of power play between men and women, and the whole alpha versus beta, male and female, and all that sort of stuff. So it works on everyone's kind of levels, and you know, finding stuff inside them to come out. And there's a lot of things that we were trying to sort of do. And you know, it's funny, for every one person that says, "Oh, I really liked your characters," and you know, I thought, you know, the character arcs were great, and I thought, there's always someone that goes, "Oh, I didn't like any of them. They're so unlikable." So you know, it's. But you know, now and again, I like films where you know you have a bunch of unlikable characters. You know, it's.
Why not? That's like real life.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Most people feel about me. Tristan, any question?
You make scary things, so I'm wondering if you have any fears or phobias that you feel comfortable sharing with us.
Yeah, I hate maggots. I cannot be near maggots. Oh my God, I just, when I was in school, someone put some maggots down my shirt, and it's just the most disgusting thing ever. So even when I'm watching a movie now, I can watch horrible carnage, but if I see maggots, I'm like, you know, even, I know there's one of Friday the 13th where Jason Voorhees gets, there's a maggot bit.
Yeah, and you see the maggots on the,
and maggots, I really hate maggots. I would say that's a big favorite. And pigeons, I hate pigeons.
Really? Pigeon.
Yeah. If I see them, I always try to walk all the way around. There's something about their flapping, and I don't mind most sort of birds and stuff, but pigeons, I don't know if they're so disgusting and they're so filthy, and they've always been like in a puddle having a wash, and then they wash and fly near me, and I just think about everything coming off them. So pigeons, really horrible. Maggots, horrible. I think that's my two main things. Like every day when I go out, I'm always a little bit, I hope I don't run into too many pigeons.
or maggots. But yeah, probably
Or
more
mag-
likely to run.
I mean,
into
if you do maggots, you rarely come across maggots.
right. You know,
It's
you're
true. That's a good point.
if
Yeah,
there happens to
and
be a lot of maggots. Yeah.
absolutely. Pigeons are always there. You know,
Yeah, you never want to work at a dump or anything like that, because then you're probably getting like a lot of things like that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm pretty much vegan and I love animals, but pigeons, if I could kill every pigeon in the world, I would. I'm sorry, I hate them.
I hope
I
there's no
really
pigeons
hate them.
watching, but yeah.
Yeah, that's my worst nightmare. Is there used to be this market, and this guy used to come with his pigeon feed, and there'd be about, I would say, probably about 100 pigeons, like in Home Alone 2, you know, the woman with the pigeons. And there used to be this guy, and it used to absolutely terrify me. He just had all his pigeons. I can't have one near me, let alone 100. But yeah, so that's my ultimate fear, is being covered by pigeons.
Yeah, you could remake the birds, but just call it the pigeons.
True.
The pigeons. It's only me and a few other people that find it scary. But most people are like, why are they running away from pigeons?
Very personal.
Yeah, 12 people would be like, I can
This is
relate
the
to
most
that.
terrifying film ever.
Everybody else is shrugging like, okay.
There's some pigeons.
Something I had mentioned to Trista before we went live was something that I found similar to Train to Busan, and not the train part. It's that as an American, I'm used to people always having lots of guns in movies, and Howl, Train to Busan, they have to deal with, in that movie zombies, and your movie werewolves, but there's no guns in it. And I find that interesting, because we're used to people just having to shoot their way out of things.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of didn't want. We wanted to really like in England, getting on one of those trains late at night, and it's raining and you're bored, and no one's going to really have a gun. But I think I really want to just try to really show the monotonous boredom of being on a train, and I mean, if I could make a werewolf movie with those guns, great, but yeah, not for that one.
Yeah. I also think it helps, and a theme that I like in movies is when the humans have to themselves become like beast-like, kind of like in Hills Have Eyes, the end of the movie,
yes.
They themselves are the beast. And that's the end of Howl, not to give the movie away, but they become very brutal. And I think it's more visceral when they don't have guns. They have to use, their hands and hand weapons.
Absolutely. We had that bit where they all pile on the werewolf, and I think in the original script, it was they were using umbrellas and suitcases, and I was like, I don't think that's going to do much against
right.
werewolf. I think we have to be a bit more imaginative with our weapons.
Yeah, and so why different? Because like I mentioned earlier, why the two different styles of the werewolves?
It was the big one was the bloke, and the other one were females.
Okay.
Did you not realize they were females?
I did not, but
they had boobs.
Oh, okay.
Monster boobs.
Yeah.
It's
they're my.
He was supposed to be like the big alpha with his pack of girls. So, yeah, sorry if you missed that one. That's probably my fault.
No, it makes sense. There's something when you were talking about them too that kind of connected to a movie that you did the effects for, The Descent, and because you were saying like, so you take out the silver bullets and the full moon. So in a way, it's almost like you kind of take out the supernatural elements of the werewolves, where I know there's still beasts and stuff, but maybe this is just what werewolves are. And in Descent, I mentioned this before in the show. A few years ago at a theater near me for Vampire Month, they showed The Descent, and I was like, I don't know why this is a vampire movie. Then I thought about it, and really The Descent is like what vampires would be if you took out all the supernatural elements. So I see kind of a connection there, like the werewolf.
Yeah, that's true. Like a natural thing, Neil. They would be.
a natural monster.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, with the Descent, we were trying to work out, you know, what they should look like, and you know, obviously they live underground, and we had these ideas, we had these designs with massive eyes, and that didn't work. So we really did go around quite a lot trying to work out what they should look like and what they sort of symbolize, which is, you know, underground and, you know, all about sort of primal savage, you know, we're just as bad as them sort of thing. They don't, you know, fuck over each other and cheat on each other's wives where, you know, people did.
I always read that the cast didn't see the monsters in the Descent till like you guys actually filmed.
Yeah, that's true. We had to be really careful, always hiding them from the girls. And yeah, the first time they saw it, it was behind. And it's always kind of quite funny because you spend weeks and weeks planning not to let them see the creatures, and then it's like action, and then that's it, they've seen it, and it's
right.
It's a creature, and you know, they're stuck in a tunnel, and the creature is, you know, all over them, and it's just Craig or Les in their makeup, and you know, it's really funny when you do creatures, because if you're kind of like creating them, and it goes back to something in American Werewolf in London, and Rick Baker would say that sometimes he'd come in and see David Norton with his big paws at the breakfast table, and you think, oh yeah, and I remember reading that, he'd be like, oh my god, they look really goofy and stupid, and you know, no one's going to buy this, and it's going to never work again. And you do have that, you're sort of sitting at breakfast, and you've got all these callers eating their cereal, and you just can't see them as scary at all. They look really daft. And, you know, it's just when you get them on set and you slime them up and you put the shadows and you watch it with the music and all that, and you have to throw everything on it, and it only looks good right at the end, you know?
Was that actually filmed underground? Like, where did you guys film the Descent?
Pinewood Studios. We talked about, you know, in the prep, you know, do we shoot in real caves? And there's no way. I mean, if you ever gone in a cave, I mean, they're slippery and dark. You can't put power cables anywhere. So it was a complete impossibility.
If Trista ever asked me the fear question, I would not want to be in tight caves. That's
I think that's like one of the scariest things. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, those people that do, the one that freaks me out is when they go under the water and down the holes. You don't like, what's it? Plunking or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
what's wrong with people?
No, that would not be me. Not at all.
I don't know why anybody would want to be in complete darkness underwater.
No.
I just
There
don't.
could be pigeons down there.
You know, there's going to be some kind of horrible, isn't there? You know, I also, yeah, I could never go on a submarine. I'd be the person trying to open the door. Let me out, let me out. And they're like, no, you'll be like 10,000 meters under the sea. I just couldn't, you know, I just couldn't do it. Just every time you hear a creak, like whenever I watch Das Boot or any submarine film, that creaking, it really freaks me out. That it just scares the hell out of me. You know,
I get claustrophobic wearing a mask for more than 20 minutes, so there's no way I could do something like that.
But you know, it's part of life now. Is wearing a mask.
Yeah,
you know, it's crazy.
So Rosie Day is in you know, the lead in The Seasoning House, and then she seems to be, I think she's in all your films. So
Rosie, she's done all 4 of my movies. She's like a little lucky charm. I phoned her up. I say,
I actually even wrote them if she was your lucky charm. Then I was like, I don't know if I should ask it, but
yeah, absolutely. They're great friends. And you know something, Season House was Rosie's first movie, and you know, she's gone on to do so much stuff now. And yeah, she's lovely. She's a real sweetheart, and you know, we get on, and it's kind of nice, you know, to see her from growing up, and you know, in that she was like a really young girl, and now she's a sort of woman and doing all these big TV things and stuff. So it's lovely to see her progression.
Mhm.
Like we saw a lot of girls. We saw about 110 girls before, and she was in the last 10. I didn't think I was going to find, Angel, and I mean, it was weird because you do these casting things. It says, right, she's got to be this high, and this she's got to go through the. And they, agents, they just send you everyone they've got, and you get these girls. It's really hard because they walk in and you're just like straight away, no. But you got to give them their 15 minutes and give them encouragement, let them do their audition, and you would just see some, and they wouldn't be able to fit in the hole, and it's like, what casting agents? They just send. I always hate the auditions. I love them in one way, but I hate them because someone's given their time, they've learned their lines, learned their script, traveled to you to come through the door, and you're like, oh, you don't, physicality, you're not right there. And you've got to give them their time, and I always try to make it as pleasant experience for them as possible, because it's a brutal job, doing tens of auditions a week, and getting one part a month or whatever. It's brutal. Actors, what they go through in auditions, I couldn't deal with that sort of rejection. It's no second prize. It's, you're going to get a letter, a note from the director saying, oh great, sorry, we went with someone else, and it's hard. And but thankfully there's a lot of really good female actresses I found, and I've used them in all my other movies, so I always remember the really good ones, and it's nice to be able to call them up and say that I didn't use you for that, but I'm going to use you for this. And you try to, it's always fun finding new, more talent.
I would assume not only being the right size for Seasoning House, then she also has to be believable when she's fighting people, so that would be a really hard role to
yeah, I mean parts. we made this mock-up of how big the vent she comes in and out of, and we say, right, can you get through that? Yeah, so we make it smaller, and it was really weird how she could just sliver in and out of this hole. It was like we made it smaller and smaller to the point where it was like, yeah, it was pretty amazing. But the physicality was so important, but also the fact that she got no dialogue. She had to do all that acting in her eyes, and if the eyes didn't have it, it would be, it just wouldn't work. So I mean, we saw some other actresses before we found Rosie, and they were great actresses, but it was just something about the eyes. If you can't feel enough from the eyes, then it's just not going to work. So I think about it now, it's actually quite a terrifying risk. But you try to, but you don't think about that then. You think about it after. You think, oh wow, if I got the wrong actress, that would have been terrible. But
yeah, and it's not just scenes where you want sympathy. She tells all her actions and the story through her eyes.
Yes, absolutely. So it was a hard one to find her.
Tristan, you have a question?
Do you have any advice for someone who might aspire to a similar career?
Directing or
either or both, special effects and directing.
Yeah, I mean, with effects now, it's so different to, I mean, I gave it up in 2011. So things are really different now. So it's kind of hard for me to advise on that one. But, my biggest bit of advice is just phone up all the studios, anyone that's got an effects house, and just go and ask them if you could do all the sort of menial work, just to meet people and learn and be there. I know it's kind of a little bit different now because it's a lot of it's social media, and I never dealt with any of that. Directing wise, one thing I would say is just make stuff on your phone. you know, take the time to, because the thing is, now you've got this amazing bit of movie making kit in your hands, you know, some of the biggest parts is directing. It's just getting a couple of people and blocking out a scene, you know, recording it on your phone, get your angles, download cheap, free editing software, edit it, learn and understand why you need those shots, why you need coverage, you know, learn about crossing the line, understand, talk to actors, just keep making stuff. So when you do get your opportunity, whether you raise $20,000 to make a short film, all the mistakes and all your learning you've kind of done, so you can make that really good, because you only get to show your first short film to people once. And so you just want to blow people away. And that's a kind of attitude, because everyone's got a phone, everyone's going to be practicing on it and making their films. Your one has to really stand out. So, you know, be diligent and, you know, read every book you can on movie making, watch the tutorials, understand every part of it, the cinematography, the editing, you know, the more you understand, the more you learn, the more you understand how to use all those bits as tools to make your movie as good as it can be. Because you just need one person to go, wow, that's a great shot, you know, and then you make another one, it does festivals, and suddenly you've got a few good shorts, and someone's going to say, you know something, this kid's got a vision, let's make a movie with him. And, you know, I was very lucky in the way that I did it. You know, I went and worked on 100 movies before I made my movie, and I learned there. But not you know, that's a tiny percentage of people that are going to go that way. So, you know, the best thing you could do is when people say, okay, show me what you've done, you want to be able to show them something really good.
So once you made your first movie, how about, like, you know, getting it out there? I mean, that, I assume that was new to you. You know, what do I do with the movie now?
Well, on my first movie,
Yeah.
I was really lucky because Fright Fest chose it as opening movie. So I was very lucky, and I had very experienced producers on it. So it was purely a case
Notice
of.
one was named Neil Jones, but he spelled his name differently.
What's that?
I noticed one was Neil Jones, but he spelled Neil differently.
Oh yeah, Neil Jones, yeah, and but you know, it was great that, you know, I had people that sort of knew what to do with it. You know, it was opening movie at Fright Fest. We toured everywhere with it, so we were really lucky in that most of the festivals kind of wanted it. So yeah, you know, through that I got an agent, UK agent, US agent, and you know, I pitched on loads of movies, done movies. You know, there's a time I was pitching for like Leatherface and Day of the Dead, and you know, I'd always get to like the final 2 or 3, and you know, just I think living in England was always hard to try to pip the post. I think if you're in America, it's a lot easier, but you know, it's a brutal business, it really is.
How important do you think the festivals are?
I think really important. I think it gets your movie seen, but also talked about. And there's nothing worse than making a movie and never hearing about it ever again. And you know, it's really hard because my 4th movie was a great little script, and we made it, but there was a whole changing of staff at the company that made it. They were making loads of big movies, and it kind of got sort of brushed aside. A lot of people are like, this is your best movie. And, you know, if you don't have someone that's behind your movie pushing it, no matter how good it is, it can easily just get, you know, left on the side. So, you know, when you make your movie, it's really hard because you can never say, right, I want to make sure there's enough momentum behind my movie once it's made, because really all you care about is want to make this movie. and you have someone. You just kind of hope that the producers push your movie in the right direction. Festivals, P&A marketing, theatre run. You can never tell what's going on. You can have companies going bankrupt. You can, it's really hard. There's so many good movies out there just floating around, not doing anything.
Did you go to Fright Fest and watch it with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. That was terrifying because you'll be sitting in the audience and it'd be all quiet, and that was we were sold out, and it was 1,500 seats on the main screen, and someone would cough, you'd be like, "Stop coughing." It was kind of like, it was really intense, and I remember a couple of people walking out and thinking, oh God, it was a very, very tense time. It's always tense going your movie because, now and again at Fright Fest, films can be laughed off the screen. I've seen some real turkeys being, and you just think, oh my God, is someone gonna hate this? And but yeah, there's no way around it. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I've been to Fright Fest. I went there one year, and
Yeah.
it's the biggest festival I've been to. Multiple screens, and but yeah, the audiences are huge. And yeah, I won't name names, but there were a couple movies that people really were not fond of.
There were some movies you didn't like so much.
No,
I remember.
I won't pick on it.
Yeah.
There were some I didn't like at all, but there was also some really great ones.
Some that you talked about for for months afterwards.
And it's kind of funny because I know the guys, and Alan Jones, is a really good friend of mine, and they say they can't just put all good movies. They've got to do a few.
It also, what's a good movie? It depends, a person's point of view. And like you said, Seasoning House is really intense, but then they also will show something that's kind of lighthearted and silly, and that might appeal to certain people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they'll always do a couple of really sort of trashy ones, and they know some are just going to get a good laugh. Some are going to just be like, but it's always nice for people, they go for a beer afterwards and go, oh my God, that movie was rubbish, and can you believe that? And not realizing the director's standing behind them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Troy said, I won't name the name, but there was a movie I actually wanted to leave, but literally the people that made it were sitting right next to us.
Yeah. I've got to be really careful with that, because walking out of someone's movie, they look at you watching, and you're just like, oh man, I'll go pretend I just went to the toilet. It's because you got to sit with them and have a drink, and they're like, oh yeah, I saw you walk out of my movie. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a bad thing. Especially
someone said to me once, look, you hang out with all those filmmakers. If the movie's bad, do you tell them it's bad? It's like, no. It's like, it's what part of normal life, are you that honest to someone's face? Something you've been working on for 2 years. I know I don't know you, but it was rubbish. You lie, and you see some kids, someone's baby, and it's a cute little kid, even if it looks like a potato. It's. But also you get some of the fans that they're for every 10 that come up to you and say, oh, I loved your movie and it was great, you always get one that comes up and goes, I didn't like your film, the ending was really rubbish, and you're like, oh, thank you for telling me. It's like, what do you want to talk about? It's like, and then some of them will start trying to give you pointers, well, maybe next time what you should do. And you're just like, you really want to just say, have you made a movie? And it's like, you're aware of your film's failings. I don't need someone that works, at Walmart telling me what to do next on my next movie to make it better. It's hard enough, reading reviews, let alone people just coming up to you and You know, there's one thing someone writing it in a review and you read it, you're like, God, didn't like it. But someone coming up to you at a festival, your film's just screened, you got a drink in your hand, and go, oh, hi, your film was rubbish. Or, you know, that start of your film, you know, it's really slow and boring. It could get better. And you're just like, you know, do you tell someone that's just made you a dinner that it tastes like shit? You know, it's, but yeah, it is funny. I remember, I tell you what's funny is when they get you to sign their DVD covers, you know, which I'm always happy to do, someone, and it's happened twice now, people come up with dog soldiers and say, oh, can you sign a copy of Dog Soldiers? And I was like, I didn't do the werewolves for dog soldiers. And someone go, no, you did. It's like, no, I didn't. That was Bob Keane, you know, Image Animation. Like, no, sign it. So it's like, no. And sometimes you'd be like in a foreign country and, you know, they say, no, sign. And I'm like, I did not do the werewolf. And they can't understand. So you just get to the point, you know, am I rude or do I just sign good to them? What can you do? I'm not going to have an argument about whether I worked on Dog Soldiers or not, you know.
I like that they know better than you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm completely wrong. I just forgot I did it. You know, it's
your mind, right?
Always makes me laugh when that happens.
That's awesome.
I love it. Tristan, do you have another question?
What's your cat's name?
What's my cat's name?
Yeah.
My cat. Did you see it walking about then? Okay.
I did. You have a cat, right? I saw a cat.
Yeah. No, I haven't noticed her for.
This is like working on Dog Soldiers. You have a cat.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't know anyone else could see.
My name was Cat because my little cat is called Daphne. I don't know where Daphne. I don't know where she is. Usually she sort of tries to get in with the Zoom calls, but yeah, it's a cute little ragdoll cat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's very cute.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw David pop up earlier.
Yeah. Did you see her walk by in back there? Yeah. Like,
Ragdolls are nice. They're like the Scottish folds. You don't see a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That you can sort of kind of see her little basket. That's where she sits.
Yeah.
When if I'm working on my computer, which is here, Cat comes and sort of sits next to me. She's not a lap cat, but she just likes to sit next to you, which is fine, I suppose. You know,
she has boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my main boundary is that my bedroom's off limits because she has the entire flat. But it's something about you're in bed and you're hearing a litter tray and she comes running up onto your bed and it's like, you know, something, she's got a lot of fur. Now and again, there's issues and are you guys cat fans or you all got
I think we're all animal fans here, but yeah, Tristan has several cats.
No, she's only like nearly a year old.
Oh wow.
But she gets me up in the morning. It's like 8 in the morning, she's meowing. I don't know what's going on.
For breakfast? For breakfast?
Yeah, I know. It's just, you know, I say to her, you just ate 6 hours ago and you're acting like I'm starving you. 6 hours. You know, it's just really bizarre. And she's really fussy.
Well, they're nocturnal, that's why. So she's been running around while you were asleep, and now
I do hear her running around, and you sort of think, just give me a morning off. You know? And it's like you woke me up, I've got up, I've fed you, and you take 2 bites and you're fine because you're not hungry. You know, it's bless her. She's very sweet though. They do keep me company.
Yeah. So are you working on anything currently? Yeah,
I got 3 projects in development. Last year, just before COVID hit, I was out in Boston and Cape Cod doing some recce's.
I'm actually on Cape Cod.
Oh, right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. A little town called Sandwich.
Yeah, I loved Cape Cod. And So yeah, we're doing a movie there, very sort of New England Stephen King type, John Carpenter movie about. It's called Unnatural Selection. It's a TV show, and they sort of debunk tons of myths like flat earthers and anything kind of. People come on the show and sort of talk about stuff, and they try to debunk it. And essentially, the devil walks in, and it's a fallen angel, not devil. A fallen angel walks in and says that he's come down to earth and he wants to go on this show, and you find out why he's in Cape Cod. But it was I love those movies, like Mr. Frost, and where someone just walks in and they look normal and they say that I'm a fallen angel, or I'm the devil, or I'm a demon, and they've got to talk it out to try to debunk him. And yeah, we were so close. We were within months of starting. And I literally flew back to England, and the next day they went into lockdown for COVID. It was really harsh because a lot of the money was kind of sort of raised, but suddenly COVID happens. No one wants to spend private equity money on a movie. They're all like, better hold on to it. So that's a pain, and we're trying to get it back up and going this summer. I've got another movie called The Black Site, which is being produced by Grimfest Films, and that's a dark horror thriller about a woman that's after a really brutal tour in Iraq, she comes back and she's haunted by all these nightmares, and she's accused of all these war crimes that she's convinced she didn't do. But as she starts to investigate it, she starts to find out things that she would rather didn't. And it's very sort of Jacob's Ladder meets Zero Dark 30. So, that's hopefully. And those are my main two. I've got a couple more that I'm kind of in the midst of writing and packaging up. So, basically you just got to, throw loads of darts at the board and hope one hits,
Interesting. I'm looking forward to. I think I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing those.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll shoot one this year. It's COVID has just been, because I work in the sort of low budget. It's indie film has taken such a battering. TV is like everyone's working. Indie film, it's just a nightmare. So what can you do? You just got to keep writing, developing, packaging, and hoping one sticks.
Yeah, I assume it's because the COVID restrictions is a lot more. The cost would affect an independent budget a lot more.
Yeah,
than a big budget.
I mean, when you're on an indie movie, you're trying to make sure how many meals are there in a day, how many toilet rolls, and all this sort of stuff. Suddenly having a COVID officer and all this sort of stuff. A friend of mine is doing a TV show, and if one person gets a positive test, they close down for 2 weeks. You think, how on earth can you afford that? So yeah, all that, but mostly it's a private equity because most people don't want to put $1 million of their money in because they might need it because that one of their businesses is going under because of COVID. So yeah, but hopefully I'll be out on the Cape. I'll have to meet up and have a beer, socially distanced beer. But yeah, I love the
I'm
Cape.
all vaccinated.
Yeah, I've got my final vaccination in 2 weeks.
Oh, excellent.
Which one did you have?
Moderna.
Okay. Are you all
I
vaccinated?
went with the Pfizer.
A Pfizer.
Yeah, I got the Pfizer.
I'm halfway like you. I've got another one coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we got a thing with like all these anti-vaxxers in this country. I don't know if you got that.
Yeah, there's some of those.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not get political because I start going on one of my rants. But yeah, hopefully the Cape one next.
Excellent. Yeah. I wanted to mention this was Well Go USA is always good with the show. They always send Blu-rays and DVDs for us to give out. And they actually sent the Seasoning House years ago on the show, and we gave it out. And when I watched it, I was like, I love the Seasoning House, but I was like, I've got to make sure when we're giving this out as a prize, I have to tell people it's a pretty it's a rough movie. It's not like giving out like a kind of a silly,
Yeah,
watch
absolutely. You can sort of traumatize
right.
someone
So
that's
like,
not prepared for. Yeah.
so I'm
What's
not sure
funny,
who won it
again,
back in the day, if anyone was traumatized by the movie or not.
it's kind of funny because women like the film more than guys,
Oh, really?
and I think it was the fact that it wasn't exploitative. I didn't have loads of naked girls getting. All the girls pretty much always had their clothes on, and it was guys that didn't. But a lot of guys kind of felt I was pushing the all guys are pigs kind of, But in war, it tends to be the women that go through that. It's women have a hard time in war, and that's what I was trying to sort of show, and the resilience of women in war. Sometimes you hear those women's stories and you're like, how on earth can you find that resilience to carry on with life and deal with what's going on in those wars? I mean, when I did my research, I was blown away by the quality of people. I mean, Season House really, is very sugar-coated compared to, what was happening in those wars. I mean, some of the stuff that I read, I could never ever put in a movie, and that was happening to real world people. So, and I had, we had a couple of women that had suffered rapes, and they were saying, they'd watched it and it was a hard watch, but they appreciated what we were trying to show. It's. I actually went to a rape charity and said, look, we're trying to be as sensitive as we can. And they watched it and they said, we actually like your movie, but we can't endorse it because we'd be endorsing going and killing your rapist. And I was like, they said, we can't endorse revenge. It's so we can't put a name to it, which I sort of, at first I was like, oh yeah, I suppose so, So yeah, the film hits some people very sensitively. We got a hell of a lot of correspondence from women actually liking the fact that it wasn't an exploitative rape movie. It was done in a way that you show rape to be what it is, which is a horrible act of violence. It's not about sex or titillation. It's violation. It's violence. So, thankfully, it was seen from most people in that way.
Yeah. How about filming those scenes? Like, what's the vibe like on set?
Something? It's really weird because I was kind of quite sort of nervous about it, but it's easier to do a rape scene than it is a love scene, because with a rape scene, it's heavily choreographed, and it's kind of like a fight scene in a way. As long as everyone's doing their part in the right way, it looks horrible, but most of the actors would be like, what's everyone so down about? Because for them it's a fight scene, where it's much more harder to do a love scene where you're talking about when you're feeding this and feeding that. It's just like, it's horrible. Thankfully, all my scripts I try not to do love scenes, so I just find them sort of. I just don't think they're needed. I'm kind of like, the soaps, where they sort of, kiss, fall on the bed, and then it dissolves to black.
And it's understood,
with full makeup, and but yeah, it's. I think as long as the girls feel, that it's completely professionally done, it's totally fine.
Good. Tristan, do you have one more question?
Oh, I'm wondering where people can follow your work.
You know something? It's mostly I'm on Twitter. I can't remember my thing. I think it's Paul Hyett one or something. And on Facebook as well. But if you go onto my Facebook, I do have rants, non-film related rants. So
I think we're all on the same page. So it's
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know,
We
I
always
say what-
enjoy a good rant anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you know, something I say what I feel, and
Yeah.
you know,
I saw you really liked a movie recently. The new
Which
Bruce
one?
Willis, the new Bruce Willis movie.
oh my God, that was. I mean, poor Bruce. I mean, I couldn't believe that one. You know, I mean, I enjoyed it for all the wrong reasons, but you know, it's hard. And so I've worked with Thomas Jane before as well, and he's a lovely chap as well. And watching him in that, I mean, it's like it was 95% their salary of the budget, and they made it for 5%. You know, it was sad times when you watch. You know, that's Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is in that. You know, I could have got him in Howl. You know, it's. I mean, it's funny when you get those ones and you start seeing that they're doing lots of sort of low budget ones, and you're just like, oh, he's obviously fell out of favor, and you know, it's all down to sales figures. But you know, hey, he makes $1 million a day, so he's happy.
Right. Yeah.
You can't be that sympathetic at that point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And there are some that you could tell the movie though, where it's maybe an A-list actor, but they'll do a lot of smaller movies, but you could tell it's something they really wanted to do. So they might make the big movies to make money, then they do these other movies that they actually want to do. But you could tell the difference between that and, you know, they're just making something that you probably don't want to
Just kind of mailing it in.
But yeah, you look at Nicolas Cage, and he's just so cool that he does all these movies and he puts everything into it. I really got to respect that, whether he's fighting an animatronic dinosaur or he never looks bored. He never looks like he's just there for the paycheck. He always gives everything, and I really respect him for that. You know,
there's a Lance Henriksen's autobiography, which I love, Not Bad for Human. And he talks about in his book, he calls them his alimony movies, and he's really open about it.
Really?
But he's like but no matter what it is, he's like, people could tell that these are movies I probably didn't want to do, but I had to do them to pay my alimony. He calls them alimony movies.
It's like Elliot Roberts.
His message is always give it your all.
Yeah. It's funny because
which he credits to his career is his first movie was Piranha 2. Which was that he didn't need alimony then, but it was just, you know, it's the Piranha 2. But he gave it his all, and the director of that is the guy who made Terminator. What's his name?
James Cameron. Yeah.
He gave it his all, and that's why, you know, James Cameron liked him, because he wasn't there just showing up, like didn't care about this. And then
and you know something I always say, you know, because now and again I'll be on a movie and an actor was sort of, not my movies, when I was doing prosthetics, I go, oh, and they'd say to me, oh God, this film's going to be really rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, when you've been shooting on a film, around the 3-week mark, you know whether the film's going to be rubbish or not. And, you know, now and again, an actor would say to me, oh man, what am I doing here? This is terrible. And I always used to say, look, why don't you be the best thing in it? Give it your all. And
what do you got to lose?
Exactly. You know, it's like there's nothing wrong with saying, God, that was a bad movie, but he was good in it.
Yeah, I've seen movies like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's always disheartening when you sort of watch and you're there on set and you're just like, oh, man, it's going to be bad. But, you got to do your best. You know, you come into work in the morning, you're getting paid, and you just got to do the best job you can, you know?
Yep, I think that's a good message. Well, I loved Howl, and I'm glad Trista brought it to us to our attention, and I hope people haven't seen it go out and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Liked it a ton.
Well, thank you for suggesting it, Trish. Really
Oh yeah,
appreciate
thank you
that.
for making the film. I'm excited to see more of your work.
Oh, excellent. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, is that 45 minutes gone? Oh, well, lovely. Thank you so much. I'm going to go watch some telly and feed the cat.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Bye, take
Yeah,
care.
thank you so much.
And when the Devil movie comes out, maybe we'll have you back on.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Take care, guys. Have a great night.
All right.
All right. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for watching.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, this is why I wave awkwardly while I hit end.